Welcome to Medicine Hat College. We're so glad you're here. And specifically, welcome to the session on academic integrity. My name is Chantel Breckert, and I have a master's in TESOL. Here at the college, I'm an international educational assistant, which means that I'm here to help you. In this session, we're going to be talking about academic probation. So what is it? It is when a student has a very low grade and is now working hard to improve their grade, so they're not asked to leave the college. You may have heard of a GPA, or grade point average. Here at Medicine Hat College, we have a letter grade and a 4.0 scale. If you see that your grades are falling, you want to make sure that you get help so that your grade does not fall below C- or 1.7. Because a student is put on academic probation when their GPA is less than 1.7 in 6 credits, that's 1 or 2 classes, at the end of a semester. So what happens when your GPA is less than 1.7 in 1 or 2 classes? Well, first, you will receive an email warning you that your GPA is falling. Again, this should not be a surprise to you because you can keep track of your grades on Blackboard. If your grades continue to fall, you will be sent a letter explaining that you are now on academic probation. So I just want to make a mention that academic probation can be avoided. When you see that your grade is falling, make sure that you ask for help and get the help that you need to improve your grades. If you are on academic probation, this is a time for you to improve your grades before there's a more serious punishment, dismissal. It is a time for you to ask for help from the Open Learning Center and tutors. So the Open Learning Center is on the 3rd floor above the library, and there's tutors there too. And you can come and ask me for help too. If your GPA is still less than 1.7 at the end of a semester, you will be asked to leave the college. You will not take any classes for 1 academic year. If you have a work permit, you cannot work if you're not taking classes. So how many of you would like to have a job this semester or while you're here in Medicine Hat? I'm guessing many of you do. So if you have a job, make sure that you keep your grades high so that you don't end up on academic probation. If you are on academic probation, you cannot work. So what are some of the reasons a student is dismissed? A student can be dismissed for fake transcripts, fake TOEFL scores, program policy governing probation and dismissal. So make sure that you read the program sections in the calendar, the one that pertains to your program, and academic dishonesty. So the one we're going to be talking in this session is academic dishonesty. So the opposite of academic dishonesty is academic integrity. And we have these key words here: honesty, trust, fairness, respect, and responsibility. So what does that mean? I found this quote here. It says, the expectation that teachers, students, researchers, and all members of the academic community act with honesty, trust, fairness, respect, and responsibility. So when we write a paper or when we do homework, like have paragraphs that we write, short assignments, long assignments, it doesn't matter. Anything that you write in school, we need to make sure that we're being honest. So you have to be honest about where you found your information. Your teacher needs to be able to trust that you're telling your instructor where you found the information and you're being truthful. We have to be fair. So authors put a lot of time and money into writing their books or their articles, and we have to be fair and give them credit for the work that they have done. And we have to respect the work that they have done. They've put in a lot of work. So we need to give them credit for that. And we have to be responsible. So we have to be responsible in the work that we present to our instructors. So the guiding questions in this whole area of academic integrity is, did this idea come from my own brain? Or did this idea come from someone else, like an author or my instructor? If the idea came from someone else, you need to say that. So, what is academic dishonesty? Academic dishonesty is when you present an idea as your own when it's not your own idea. So if it's your own idea, you don't need to give credit to anybody else. But if the idea came from somebody else, then you need to give them credit. So what is academic dishonesty? Well, we're going to discuss two kinds of academic dishonesty today. The first is plagiarism, the second is cheating. Let's look at plagiarism. What is it? It is including other people's ideas in your assignment and you didn't give credit to the real author. So there's 4 ways students can plagiarize. Let's look at the first one. Your assignment was done in whole or in part by someone else. Let's look at some examples. You are busy working, so you asked your friend to write your assignment for you. So if you do that, you've committed plagiarism. You want to make some extra money, so you decide to write students' papers for them. This is plagiarism. You don't have time to write your paper, so you paid or asked someone to write it for you. So whether you are the one writing a paper for somebody else or the one accepting a paper written by your friend or somebody else, both of those are plagiarism. You really want your boyfriend to like you, so you write his assignment for him. So actually, I was teaching an English class here at the college a couple of years ago, and they had an assignment that they needed to submit. There was about 25 students in the class, and all of the assignments were different, but 2 were remarkably similar. And believe it or not, those 2, one was a girlfriend and one was a boyfriend, and so they both received a 0 on the assignment. So don't let that be you. You're really confused and your paper is due in an hour, so you copy part of someone else's paper. They took the class last year, so the teacher will never know. But the teacher will know because when you submit your paper into Blackboard, it runs through a program called SafeAssign. I'm going to talk about that later. And SafeAssign compares your paper that you've just submitted with all the other papers that have ever been submitted to Medicine Hat College. And it compares it to websites too. So your teacher can know and you can get punished for it. Or you used an online generator or AI to write some or all of your paper. So this is becoming a real problem. But when you use AI in a way that it was not intended to be used, it's plagiarism. So we're going to talk more specifically about AI later in this presentation. Another way that you can commit plagiarism is that parts of your assignment were taken from another source without a reference, or you used the wrong source. So you're going to hear about APA, MLA, and Chicago. They're very important. So let's say that you saw an excellent quote and you included it in your paper without using an in-text citation or a footnote. So let's take a look. Remember we said that we need to give credit to the original author. This means we need to write down who wrote it, when was it published, what did they write, and where was it published. So these are 4 key components that you need to use to help you not plagiarize. And these citation styles, APA, MLA, Chicago, they're designed to help students clearly state where they found their information. So by a show of hands, who is in business, education, psychology, or the sciences? Who are in these programs? Raise your hand. Okay, you will use APA. Is there anyone in humanities? If so, you will use MLA. And Chicago. Chicago is business, history, and fine arts. Anyone in history and fine arts? They'll use Chicago. So here at Medicine Hat College, the business department generally uses APA. I've never seen them use Chicago. They focus on APA. So APA is the most common one, so we'll talk about that right now. So all of these styles, APA, MLA, and Chicago, for all of them, you have to, when you write a paper, your last page has to be a list of all the sources that you used to get information to write your paper. So APA style, this is called references. And then in every style, your authors are arranged in alphabetical order. So here we have our first author. J is for Jeremy Appel. This is who wrote it. So you're telling your instructor, Jeremy Appel wrote this article. So we have who wrote it, when was it published? It was published 2019, March 22nd. And here, because this is a newspaper article, we include the date, March 22nd, but it's not always included. What did they write? Here's your title. Medicine Hat College reiterates its focus on equality with Hands Against Racism project. And then where was it published? It was published in the Medicine Hat News, and there's our URL. So your URL has to be hyperlinked so that your instructor can click on it and it'll take them directly to your source. So let's look at your in-text citation. In your paper, you want to include who wrote it and when was it written. So we have our sentence. This is my sentence and my quote. And in your brackets, you have Appel, which is the author's last name, the year, which is 2019. And then because we've used a quote, we have the location, para 6. So because this is a website, we're using the paragraph. If it was a book or an article, we would use the page number, and that would be P:6. So your instructor can take a look at your in-text citation inside your paper and look at your reference page and say, okay, I can find the source that this student used. So let's take another look at APA in-text citations. So this is the first one. So you can see there's 3 authors there. So you have Staffen Simpson, 1994. That's the first source. Semicolon, Lewis, 1996. Your second source, then a semicolon, and then Mikichi, 1996. So all 3 of these sources were saying the same thing. So this author got the information from these 3 sources, and they're listed in alphabetical order. You'll see here we have a quote with our quotation marks. So here we have Pounder as the author, the year, and then we have our location, page 176. That's when we get a specific quote. Here we're just summarizing again. We've just got the idea from this author, Davis, then we have the author and the year. Let's look at MLA. MLA has the same information, who, what, when, where, but it just arranges it differently. So they have the author's last name, here's a quote, and this is the location. They just have the number, that's it. And then here they have the author and the location. They don't include the year. Chicago has 2 kinds of citation. You can have the author note citation, or you can have the footnote. So here's the footnote, and at the bottom you can see it has all the information there with the page number for the information. So let's take a look at a paragraph. We're going to look at an example. So let's say that I'm writing a paragraph on the Canadian flag. So here it is. I've started the history of the Canadian flag. That's my title. Okay, the red and white maple leaf has been the symbol of Canada for generations. So I want to add some information here. So I'm going to go to the Canadian website. So I know that it's a reliable source because it's from the government. Okay, so it would be a source that I can use in my research. And as I'm reading, I find this question. But has Canada always had its iconic red and white maple leaf to showcase itself to the world? So I like this question, so I'm going to include it in my paper. I'm just going to copy and paste it. So there it is. Okay, now I have just committed plagiarism. So how do I fix it? I need to add quotation marks, but we're not done yet. What do we have to add now? An in-text citation. So we have the author, year, and because it's a website, we do para 2. So now I've included my in-text citation. So I will just say that I have not changed this question. I've left it a question, and I've just copied and pasted it and put it in there. Even if I change this question into a sentence to fit better into my paragraph, I still need to include the in-text citation because I took the idea from the website. Okay, so even if you change a few words in your quote, you still need to give reference to the author. This is the example with a footnote. So you can see the number 1 there after my quotation mark. And then at the bottom of the page, there would be the information required in the footnote. Okay, so let's say you found some great information and wrote it in your own words, but you didn't use an in-text citation or a footnote. So just like I said, if I change that question into a sentence, I still have to have my in-text citation. I've used in my own words, but the idea came from the website, so you still have to cite it. You found a great quote or information, but you don't remember where you read it, and you don't have time to look for it, so you grab the closest book or article and use that for the citation. This is plagiarism because your information has to match your source. If they don't match, then that's plagiarism. So that's why you have to be really organized in your research so that you know exactly who said what, where you found that information. Patchwork plagiarism. This is when you combine information from 2 or more sources and present it as your own. And that's what we call a patchwork quilt. You see how the pieces are all just kind of put together. Patchwork paraphrasing. This is changing a few words in the quote so it's not exactly the same as a quote. So this still needs an in-text citation, and it still needs to be, the source still needs to be included on your reference page at the back of your paper. Let's move on to number 3. The third way students can commit plagiarism is when the whole assignment is copied. Let's look at an example. So let's say you were working and you didn't have time to write it yourself, so you found a great essay online and you decided to use it instead of writing your own paper. This is plagiarism. Your friend's paper was much better than yours, so you used it. You don't have the same teacher anyway, and friends help each other out. Okay, the problem is your teacher likely will find out because when your friend submitted the paper and when you submitted the paper, it's going to match them up. So it's going to let your teacher know that, hey, this is your friend's paper. It'll highlight it, and I have a report that I'm going to show you in a few slides here. You needed some extra help on your paper, so you used ChatGPT. Okay, so love it or hate it, ChatGPT is here. And some instructors will let you use it with specific parameters. Other instructors will say, do not use ChatGPT at all, and if you do, you will fail your assignment. So make sure that you're following the rules and that you know exactly what your instructor is asking for. The fourth way you can commit plagiarism is if you submit the same assignment in 2 or more classes. So you can commit plagiarism against yourself. So let's say you wrote a paper in another class, so you decide to submit it in this class as well. So like I said, when you submit your paper into Blackboard, it'll compare it with all the other papers that have been written. So it'll flag it, and it'll know that you've submitted a paper twice, and so you might fail. You're repeating a class and you want to use the same assignment. So if you find yourself in either one of these situations, you can ask your instructor and see if they'll let you submit an assignment twice. Let's look at academic sources. So when you're doing your research, you can't just use any website you want to, and you especially can't use Wikipedia. You want to use academic sources. So here is an example of a journal article. So a journal, here we have the Journal of Applied Research in Memory and Cognition. A journal is a really large book, and they've actually, like over the years, they'll have hundreds of these books. So inside each one of these books are different articles on this topic. So this article, Sweat So You Don't Forget, Exercise Breaks During a University Lecture Increase On-Task Attention and Learning. So this particular article is from this journal, and these are the page numbers right here. You will hear about a peer-reviewed journal article. So peer, so normally we use that to mean friends. In this case, it means colleagues or experts on that topic. So the authors of this article, they submit their article, their research, their work to this journal, and then there's experts in the field who read their article and they decide if they're going to publish it or not. So then you know that the information in these sources is valid. You can also use textbooks or books from the library. You can use reliable websites. You can use scholargoogle.ca. Just make sure that you never pay for a journal article. Sometimes you'll need to pay to download something, but don't do that because it's likely that that article would be on the college library website. So just make sure of that, and just make sure that you're using reliable sources. Okay, here it is, artificial intelligence. Let's talk about this. Does your instructor allow it? Like I said, some will say yes with parameters, others will say no, most definitely not. You cannot use it. Is the information reliable? Well, it depends on the system and it depends on the prompt. So it depends on how you ask your question. And since you're just students just embarking on this educational journey, you might not ask the right questions, but you don't know that. And AI can make things up. It's called hallucinations. So you must verify the information. So in my opinion, if you're writing a research paper, the best thing to do is just to go to the source, because you're gonna have to go to the source anyway with AI. So just find it anyway. Okay, so be careful. There's some examples here. So this is published maybe a year and a half ago or so, June 8th, 2023. And it's taken from New York. So I'm just going to read this here. 2 apologetic lawyers responding to an angry judge in Manhattan federal court blamed ChatGPT Thursday for tricking them into including fictitious legal research in a court filing. Attorneys Stephen A. Schwartz and Peter Loduca are facing possible punishment over filing a lawsuit against an airline that included references to past court cases that Schwartz thought were real, but were actually invented by the artificial intelligence-powered chatbot. So, what happened? Well, essentially, they had to pay a fine. So, this was published June 22nd, 2023, so less than a month later, just a couple weeks later. The New York federal judge sanctioned lawyers who submitted a legal brief written by the artificial intelligence tool ChatGPT, which included citations of non-existent court cases. In addition to each paying a $5,000 fine, the attorneys Peter Loduca and Stephen Schwartz and their Levi Dow law firm were ordered Thursday to notify each judge falsely identified as the author of the bogus case rulings about the sanction. So don't let this be you. They got in trouble. $5,000 is a lot of money. And this is American anyway, so it's a lot of money. There are punishments for using ChatGPT and for submitting things you think are real, but they're not real. Here's another example. This one's from BC. So BC lawyer reprimanded for citing fake cases invented by ChatGPT. And this is from February 26, 2024. Okay, so this lawyer, so the cases would have provided compelling precedent for a divorced dad to take his children to China, had they been real. But instead of savoring courtroom victory, the Vancouver lawyer for a millionaire embroiled in an acrimonious split has been told to personally compensate her client's ex-wife's lawyers for the time it took them to learn the cases she hoped to cite were conjured up by ChatGPT. So that's a problem. And lawyer fees are not cheap. They add up so fast. It's so expensive. So again, make sure this doesn't happen to you. ChatGPT has its uses. Well, let's take a look at some uses. So, have you ever created an online dating profile? So some people are using ChatGPT to do this. So let's take a look. I decided I would play around. So I inserted, so my keywords were adventurous, student, and travel. And it just within seconds, this is what ChatGPT spit out. Hey there, I'm a passionate and adventurous student who thrives on exploring new horizons. Whether I'm diving into my studies or embarking on a new travel adventure, I'm always seeking out exciting opportunities that enrich my life. My love for learning is matched only by my love for discovering new cultures and destinations around the world. Traveling is my ultimate passion. There's nothing like immersing myself in the sights and sounds and flavors of a new place. From bustling cities to serene landscapes, I'm always up for a journey. Okay, so fun, yes. Does it sound like something you would write? No, it does not. It doesn't sound like anything I would write either. I love it. It's fun. It's exciting. But it does not sound like something I would write. Everybody has their own voice. It's called their own voice. So when students write, they have their own voice. Like when I write, I have my own voice. We all have our own style. ChatGPT has its own style too. It sounds similar. Like I printed off a few of these to kind of get some different ideas, but they all kind of had a similar kind of flair to them. So, and how about content? Let's say, so you are an expert on you. So let's say that you wanted ChatGPT to write up a dating profile for you. But you can see I put in travel, I put in student, I put in adventurous, but I didn't put in cooking. Like I like cooking, but I didn't put that in. So I can change this to add in cooking because I know that's a piece of content that's missing. You're just starting out at the college. You're not an expert in your field yet, so you don't know what content is missing or not. I've seen some paragraphs written by ChatGPT, and oftentimes there's a lot of words, but not a lot of content. It doesn't really say anything. So watch out for that. How about for vocabulary and sentence structure? Does this example use vocabulary or the types of sentences that you would use? Probably not, okay? Excuse me. So your instructor is going to learn how you write, and if you write something that's a little bit different, their red flag is going to go up and they're going to wonder what's up. Okay, so there are problems with AI. So first, as we saw with those lawyers, AI can have hallucinations and it's not always accurate. Same with the dating profile. It was missing information. Like cooking wasn't there. It's not in your own voice, like the dating profile that we looked at. That sounds nothing like what we would write ourselves. And you don't know if content is missing. Yeah. And you don't always know what kind of questions to ask. And you're committing plagiarism if you don't use it properly. If you do use ChatGPT, remember that APA, MLA, or Chicago have guidelines for how to cite it. So remember that you do always need to give credit for where you find your information. So it's the same information, who, when, what, and where. Okay, so the author is OpenAI, that's who. The date is 2023. ChatGPT, August 3 version, and I think there's a new version out now. And then large language model, and then you have your URL there. And you also need to include your in-text citation. So there's your author and your year for the in-text citation. And here's your reference at the bottom of the page, and that would go on your references page at the end of your paper. Okay, so that concludes our section on plagiarism. Not our session, just our topic on plagiarism. So maybe pause the video, write down what you remember. And if you have time, talk about it with a partner or in a small group. Cheating, our second major topic today. So cheating is when you write a test and find the answers somewhere other than your own brain. So helping a friend on a test is not helping, it's cheating. So let's take a look at some examples. So you use textbooks, notes, cell phones, calculators, and other electronic devices to find answers for yourself or someone else if unauthorized. So that's key if it's unauthorized. Sometimes you will be allowed to use your textbooks and your notes. Sometimes you'll write an open book test. Sometimes you can use your notes and textbooks, but you cannot use your cell phones or electronic devices. So just make sure that you're listening to your instructor's instructions. Cheating is when you copy the work of another person. It's also when you leave your answers visible so other students can see them. So let's say that you guys are in a classroom and you have your papers just on the corner of your desk so your friend can just glance over to see your answers. So make sure you don't do that, because then both of you are cheating and there's a possibility that both of you would receive a 0 on that test. If you consult any person or materials outside the examination room without permission to do so, that is cheating. So a friend of mine was telling me that they knew someone, their child was writing their, they were 14, they were writing their driver's ed thing, their test, to get their learner's permit. So as they were inside writing the answers, somebody else was in their car outside on the street, like texting them the answers. So you want to make sure that you don't do that. That's cheating. You can't communicate with anybody outside the examination room. Okay, other misconduct. So one example is you make up the results of a lab or an experiment. So this might be tempting, like, maybe you've been working a lot and you had lots of papers, maybe it's midterms or finals, you have tons of work to do, and you have this lab that you need to do, but you're really pressed for time and you don't have time to actually do the experiment. So you just decide that you're just gonna write down whatever you think makes sense and then submit that. So that's called academic misconduct, and you can get a 0 for that. You can't make up results from a lab or an experiment. Maybe you can ask your instructor for an extension. There's different options. But if you just quickly make up some results, then that's misconduct and you can get a 0 on your assignment. So if someone tampers with, destroys, steals, or makes inaccessible library or other academic resource materials, can't do that. You can't alter marks, no hacking. You can't record lectures or classes without authorization. So oftentimes instructors don't want you to record their lectures because you're paying for it and they don't want you to share this information with somebody who's not paying for a class. But I have had international students come to me and ask if they can record the classes. So then what I do, I just send them to their instructor, I ask, and then they have a conversation. So the student asks the instructor if they can record their lectures. So if the instructor is okay with it, like the student just signed a contract and had to promise that they were only going to use it for themselves, they weren't going to share this information with anybody else, and they had to honor that commitment. It is a contract, so they have to be careful with that. So if you want to, you can ask, but you cannot do it without asking. Number 5, you write a test for someone else, or you help someone pose as someone else, or you have someone write the test for you. So no matter what kind of participant you are in this little game, you can't play it. You have to just write your own tests and you can't help anybody else with their test. When the test comes, that's it. Everyone's on their own. Okay, so what do you remember from cheating and other misconduct? Just take out a pen and paper or on your phone. Just take a few minutes and write it down. You can pause the video. Okay, if you have time, you can talk about what you've learned with a partner or in a small group. Okay, and I told you I was going to show you a report from Safe Assign by Blackboard. Here is the report. So you can see here in green is the section that the student has included in their paper. And you can see it says it's a very high match, 94%. They have an in-text citation, but you still don't want all of a good portion of your paper to be quotes or paraphrases. You also have to have some of your own information in there. So I have some paragraph styles that help, especially international students, organize their information and the quotes that they're using, because it can be a really difficult area to balance out. So I do have like a template that you can follow. So if that's of interest to you, make sure you book an appointment with me. So here we have our student paper and the original source. And it says here all the sources it used. So 15% came from the internet, and then there's scholarly journals and publications here. So it's serious business. In summary, academic probation, keep your GPA above 1.7. Know the citation style, APA, MLA, or Chicago. When you use information from books, articles, and websites, use an in-text citation or a footnote. Write your own papers, assignments, and tests. Okay, so how do we avoid academic probation? So I have some tips here. So first is time management. You want to plan ahead. Plan out your assignments. If you're working in your work schedule, plan your work schedule and your assignments so that you know that you're going to get everything done. When are you going to start your assignment? What are the steps that you're going to do? When are you going to do your research, your rough draft, your planning, all that? Okay, so plan it out so you know that you have enough time to complete it. Make sure you start early. And if you don't understand, ask for help. There's lots of people who can help you with your assignments. And Justine McKinney, she helps students manage their time, and if you're feeling stressed, she can help you organize all that. So this is what learning looks like. We get information from everywhere, from books, from teachers, from friends, articles, the internet, you name it. So it can be hard to remember where you found that quote or where you read that information. So that's why it's really important to organize your research. First, you need to know where you read the information. You need to know which author said what. You need to know what you quoted, what you paraphrased, or what you summarized. And you need to report accurate information. So doing all of this will save you time and frustration. So if you want to do this with pen and paper, go ahead. If you want to organize it electronically, there's programs to help you do that, do that. But just make sure that you're organizing everything so that when it's time to submit your paper, you have all of that information handy and you're citing your sources as you go, and building your reference page might be something to do at the very beginning. So it's really important to keep it organized. It'll help you in the long run. And how do you avoid cheating? Well, keep calm and study hard. There's no way around it. You have to study. So what kind of learner are you? The way you learn affects how you study. So we're going to talk about 4 kinds of learners. We have the visual learner, the auditory learner, the kinesthetic learner, and the reading and writing learner. So everyone's probably a little bit of each one, but there's one dominant one that really resonates with us. Let's talk about the visual learner first. So if you're a visual learner, you want to make sure you organize your notes. Even rewriting your notes, making your notes really clean and appealing. Study the charts, tables, and graphics because your mind will probably remember them easier than just words on a page. You can use color to code your notes. Use colors to group ideas and events. and it just makes it pretty with your headings and your subheadings. You can create a picture in your mind. So for example, if you have a list of 10 items that you'll have to write down on your test, you can imagine this walk. I'm sure all of you will be walking around the city at some point or taking the bus different places. So just think of a route that you travel. And if you have 10 items on your list, choose 10 little landmarks. Could be a mailbox, could be a tree, anything that you're going to remember. It could be a bridge, and just 10. So then, and then on your list, with the first landmark gets the first item on your list. And then in your mind, you create a really silly picture to help you remember the first thing on your list. Then you come to the second landmark. It gets the second item on your list, and just create a really silly picture to help you remember what is second on your list, and go all the way through to 10. Then when you sit down to write your test, you can imagine your route, and you can imagine the silly pictures with each landmark. It'll help you remember it. You can draw pictures or figures. So my daughter does this. If she has like a passage that she has to memorize, she draws a picture of it to help her remember. Now you can watch documentaries or videos. So which ones will you implement into your study habits? Are you an auditory learner? If you are, you'll likely need to study in a quiet place so that you're not distracted. You can use memory helps like rhymes or short songs. My brother and I were in the same grade in school, and whenever we had a test to study for, we would just make up a cute little song to help us remember that content. You can also do something like this example here. So this is fanboys. So these are conjunctions. And this is a little memory help to help us remember all the little conjunctions. So we have for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. And it makes fanboys. So you can do this when you're studying for your paper, for your test, to help you remember key pieces of information. You can read textbooks and notes aloud, but maybe do that in your room when you're alone so you're not disturbing anybody else. You can talk with others. Oftentimes we get great ideas from learning others, and they'll remind us of things, we can remind them of things. And be sure to leave spaces in your notes to write down information from these conversations. So which ones will you implement into your study habits, and do you do any of these? The kinesthetic learner. So the kinesthetic learner likes to move and be active. So this is actually good for everybody, but be sure to take breaks to be active when you study. Like that source that I showed you, Sweat So You Don't Forget. In the middle of their class, everyone did jumping jacks and high knees. They got their heart rate elevated, and it actually helped them remember what they were studying, and it helped them do better on their test. And so just to be sure, a break is not like working on your laptop and then going to your phone and playing a game on your phone. That's not a break, because your brain is not helping your brain at all. But if your break is elevating your heart rate and you're feeling alive and excited, and then it helps your memory, actually. It's very interesting. So make sure that you take those active breaks. Flashcards. I'm sure all of you will be on a bus at some point this year, or you have some downtime if you're waiting for a ride or waiting for a bus, sitting in the bus. Make some flashcards and take them with you. You can study them anytime. And so there are online flashcards you can use too, but I also read a study that it's helpful, students retained more information when they took notes in class with pen and paper than they did typing their notes on their laptop or on a keyboard. Interesting, hey? I thought so. You can make memory cards. So if you have some key historical figures that you have to remember. You can have the person's name on one, and you can match it with information about them, like when they were born, what they're remembered for. So you have to match up their name with information about them. So that's fun too. You can create a study group. It can be online or it can be in person. You can squeeze a stress ball while you study. Or you can create a chart on the wall with sticky notes and pictures. I taught a class once it was really exciting about the Canadian government. And so it was with a group of newcomers to Canada. And it's hard to remember names from people of other cultures. So we just had the names of the political people typed out, and then we had the picture, and then they had to match them. So if you wanted to do something like that, you can also create a timeline on the wall of historical events using sticky notes. I don't know if you watch true crime, but I like seeing all their pictures on the wall, and they have like the arrows from like connecting all these different people. You can do like the timeline of events. You can get creative when you study so that, you're not bored. So which ones have you implemented and which ones would you like to implement? There's the reading and writing learner. So this person, yes, likes to write and they like to read. And you can write in journals. Make sure that you're looking up words in the dictionary. You're searching the internet. Yeah. And this is basically targeting our educational system. Essentially, this is what our educational system typically relies on. So know your learning style. How do you like to learn? And choose the study methods that help you. And, like I said, we all have a variety as well. So you can pick and choose from different learning styles too, whatever you find useful for you. And be sure to study every day. Don't wait until the day before the test to study everything. I know you guys are super busy. You're going to be super busy. You have lots on the go, lots of information to keep track of. I'm sure your brain is swarming with tons of information. So it'll be kind of, easy to let these tests sneak up on you. But make sure that you just do a little bit every day. And then write down 3 strategies that you already do, 3 strategies that you'll start, and then if you have time, share with a partner or a small group. And here, this is my information, so I can help you understand instructions and assignments, citations, thesis development outlines, grammar, punctuation, presentation planning. Lots of times international students want to come and practice their presentation in my office with me. They want to practice so that they are smooth and then, correct any pronunciation problems or anything like that. So we can practice for in-person presentations and also online presentations. And so in-person and online appointments are both available. And there's my contact information there. So be sure to contact me if you have any questions. My office. So I'm sure you recognize the library now. So you can take the elevators or the stairs up to the 3rd floor. You'll get off the elevator there. My office is B352. So you can see down by the star, this is the first door there. It says Cooley Collegiate. And so you can either go in this door or you can walk straight down the hall to this door. You'll see that sign, International Students. If you go in the 2nd door, my office is just right around the corner there. So thank you. I look forward to meeting you. Have a great day. Bye.